In today's episode, I think I remember reading something like you rejected 86 times.
Yeah, I think it was our Series B.
That is insane.
Yeah,
man.
it was brutal. So the challenge we had was we had a product. We were a British company, a bunch of British guys. Like my company is kind of like, it sounds like a joke, but we had one guy, one Irishman, me, my wife who was Scottish. We had Chris, who's our head of engineering, who's English, and then two Welshmen. And so we had
walk in a bar, literally.
walk into a bar and say, let's start a fantasy sports business. And so it kind of looked ridiculous. We were this British company with an American product that some said was gambling, which is illegal at the time in the US. And so that's a tough sell. And it took us, like, from 2008, sort of 2009, we raised our Series A. It took us probably 2 years to really get the product right, to really get it, like, we had product market fit. And so fundraising for that Series B, which was in 2011, was brutal. Like, it was, we just, I was on the road from... We started, I think, in October of 2010, and we closed the round July, so like about 8 months later, July of the following year, and we pitched 86 VCs, and we got one term sheet.
I mean, so just because that sounds like, this classic story, you get rejected and it's brutal, but now you're doing great. But take me back to that moment, because just for me, like I was saying to you before this, like, it was my birthday this weekend, and I was super late, and I didn't really organize anything properly. And I texted a few friends. I don't expect them to reply to me on the day, but for me, even just as like a normal person on my birthday, texting a few friends, like after a while, if you do that 86 times, just a birthday text, let alone something you've given up your life for, you're going into your savings, you might be going into debt. Like, that's really tough mentally, right? And like, how did you deal with that? Because I feel like this is something people don't always talk about, and it's and not to get too cheesy about it, but it's like a real thing of like the stress that you take on at that level, and also just kind of like the negative self-talk. Like, how do you deal with, okay, the 85th guy or girl says to you, this is stupid, we're not doing it. Like, how do you then say, like, what? Wait a minute, are they seeing something I'm not? Like, am I being really stupid? Like, trying to do this thing?
You have to be like, you have to really believe in what you're doing and what you're selling. You really you can't fake that, and you just have to. That's the first thing. And if you don't really believe in it, you're never going to sell it. The other, and investors, you hear like some stats that they'll invest in like 1% of the companies that so it's kind of stacked against you. I advise lots of entrepreneurs now, and the first thing I tell them, and even like these are ones like some of them are amazing products and they're amazing entrepreneurs, and I'm like, okay, who are the 40 investors you're going to talk to? And they're like, what? Like, I just thought I would pick like, the top 5 because I have read their blogs and they'll love
seem
this.
Like nice guys. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to go into those 5, and like the first one, the guy's going to be late and he was on another meeting and it's not going to be a great meeting. And you're like, oh my God, okay, that one's out. And then the next one, they're like, we love this, but we've just invested in this other company and it kind of a little, and then the next one's going to be, I love this, but my partner doesn't really. And so like you get through your 5 and then you're going to get to the end of it and you're like, oh my God, my top 5, just like, so I'm always like, okay, I want to see a list of at least 40 people that you're going to pitch, because, the secret, like, they might invest in 1%, but there's over 100 people you could be pitching in an early stage. And there's only, like, there's a handful of companies I've advised where like, I'm like, you're going to get money from, you only need to talk to 10, all right? But that's
because it's so specific and it's
they're
like focus.
Like it's more like I just know that they're really hot, but like there's no reason not to talk to that many. Like there really is no, and you should do it. You should try and do it as quick as and concentrate it. But like you should start with a long list. For me, at that point, like I wasn't really aware of that. Like I kind of thought our Series A took about 15 or 20, and so I kind of thought that was normal.
Wait, 15 or 20
people. Like that was what we talked to, and I kind of thought that was normal. Going to 86. In retrospect, I actually don't think it's crazy. There's like if you're a consumer internet startup in the US today, you could pitch 200 investors really without totally, saturating the market. And if you're not, and you're complaining, oh, I just can't raise money. And I'm like, well, you need to talk to more investors. Yeah. So I think that's the thing, is like the expectation, if you're going to have like 5 or 10 discussions and you're going to raise money, is the first thing I think people get wrong. You need to recognize that this is going to be a long journey of talking to lots of investors.